UFC Fight Night Vancouver, Derrida versus Allen takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card. But before I even get started with the early prelim opener, I should mention that me, Bedtime MMA, and Lucas Tracy are going to be doing a tri-commentary stream for this event, UFC Vancouver, this weekend on Saturday. Me, Lucas Tracy, and Bedtime MMA, the big three, are in the house for a joint commentary trio stream on my channel where the regular fight companions happen. Let's get started with the early prelim opener of Melissa Corden versus Tainara Lisboa. Now this one, you're looking at two elite level competition fighters here. I'm going to go with Tainara Lisboa. She was a kickboxer, but she's also got some decent submission wins against some okay opponents. I know Jessica Rose Clark is pretty bad. She's pretty hot as well, but she's pretty terrible in hindsight in her career. But Tainara Lisboa took her down, submitted her in her fight. Has lost some fights in the UFC, got submitted in her last fight, but she's a kickboxer first. She competed twice against Valentina Shevchenko in kickboxing. Melissa Corden is just some woman who fought a bunch of cans. Tainara Lisboa ran into Norma Jamont on the regional scene early doors in her career, ended up losing that one, so I can justify more of her losses, and I like more of her wins. I don't need to explain myself. Please don't make me do it. There's not much to go off here. But I'm going to have to lean towards Tainara Lisboa for sure. But before we move on to the next fight on the card, this video is sponsored by prizepicks.com. Go to prizepicks.com and use code GURU. New users play $5 and get $50 instantly in lineups by using code GURU when they sign up to prizepicks.com. This week, what I'm going to do is I'm taking Manon Fiorot for more than 2.5 total rounds. I'm taking Amy and Zahabi for more than 2.5 total rounds. I'm also taking Djorgen Santos for less than 48.5 significant strikes because I reckon he's going to get destroyed by Danny Barlow. But there you go. That's what I'm going for this week. Use code GURU at prizepicks.com. We move on with the rest of the card. Azamat Bekoev versus Yousri Belgaroui. You know what? I really wanted to pick Yousri Belgaroui because he's a tall, rangy dude for the division, training partner of Alex Pereira, top-level kickboxer before as well. Not really top-level because he fell short of that top level by being knocked out by Alex Pereira and the likes of other opponents like that. But I'm going to have to side with the experience of Azamat Bekoev, 20-3, trains at American Top Team, really good gym. Had some time to develop now, got into the UFC, had a really nasty finish over a great grappler as well in Ryan Loader, who's not the best, but he's got a really strong grappling background. And Azamat Bekoev did a really good job of putting him away in the first round. Had some good performances before that as well. Was supposed to be fighting Torres Finney. That fight fell through. Then he got booked against Yousri Belgaroui. That fight fell through. Now they're booked for this card. And I'm going to go with Azamat Bekoev getting this one done. I don't mind Yousri Belgaroui's loss to Marco Tulio in hindsight. I just don't like that in moments he was getting very clearly outstruck. And in my opinion, he looked like how Alex Pereira looked against Bruno Silva early doors, but way worse. He just couldn't really set his feet. Like, he couldn't hold his ground. I almost feel like this guy should move up to light heavyweight. And he already has the frame for it, but he needs to like bulk up for the division. He just seems too easily manipulatable. And Azamat Bekoev's pretty good everywhere. Solid striker, nasty first round knockout power, and a really good grappler as well. It just seems like a recipe for disaster for Yousri Belgaroui. So inexperienced. And not only that, but even on his last Contender Series fight that he had, they kind of gave him a bit of a layup to get a finish and get into the UFC. He ended up getting a third round finish, but it was so weak of a performance. Even the regional fight that he had before that, he took some guy to a unanimous decision. I'm waiting for this excellence to come out of Yousri Belgaroui, but in an octagon, it just doesn't seem to be there. So I'm going to have to go with Azamat Bekoev. I don't think he'll fear Belgaroui striking at all. I think he'll go straight forward, go straight at him, mix in the grappling, and also swing some KO blows. I'm going to take Azamat Bekoev to win this fight by first round finish to ground and pound over Yousri Belgaroui. So I've got Bekoev by first or second round, ground and pound TKO. We move on. Stephanie Luciano versus Ravena Oliveira. Yeah, I'm going to go with Stephanie Luciano. Both of them are pretty bad, but Stephanie Luciano had a close fight with Sam Hughes. So that's what I'm going off of here. She's a massive favorite because she's a lot better on the eye test than Ravena Oliveira. Ravena Oliveira has done nothing. She's beat no one capable. But she's in the UFC. And, yeah, I'm going to have to go with Stephanie Luciano here over Ravena Oliveira. She just looks a little bit better. And to be honest with you, Sam Hughes probably destroys Ravena Oliveira and will destroy a lot of low-level women's strawweight fighters. She's actually a pretty tough test, Sam Hughes. Sam Page. She's always a pretty good underdog to pick in women's MMA. But now she's no longer being the underdog. She's now coming in as like a big favorite because over time, the odds makers have realized, oh my God, this woman keeps winning over and over again. And Stephanie Luciano actually had a pretty close fight with her. I believe it was a split decision. So I'm going to go with Stephanie Luciano to win this one. Even being close to Sam Hughes, I know I would pick Sam Hughes to dominate Ravena Oliveira. So the fact that Stephanie Luciano can even make it quite competitive and very competitive means that she's not far off that level and she's a younger fighter. So maybe by now, she is at that level of a Sam Hughes. I'm going to go with Stephanie Luciano to win this fight by decision. A classic women's 29-28. We move on. Kyle Prepolec versus Drew Dober. I'm going with Drew Dober. There's certain fights that you pick against Drew Dober for, and then there's certain fights that you pick him to win. Prepolec might be a good underdog just because of the fact that maybe Dober doesn't have his chin anymore because of the Manuel Torres finish. But Manuel Torres is a nasty, violent finisher. I picked Manuel Torres to KO Drew Dober in the first round in that fight. And a lot of people were saying, oh, it took Gene Silva 3 rounds to finish Dober and he couldn't even put him down. And I was telling them, Manuel Torres is a freak. He might not be a really good technical fighter, which you saw against Ignacio Bahamondes, but Manuel Torres is a genetic freak in terms of delivering nasty power in round 1, and he's a massive lightweight as well. Could never make featherweight. So I took him to beat Drew Dober. I'm not going to hold that against Drew Dober, though. I think Drew Dober's still very good. I think he beats the likes of Kyle Prepolec in this world pretty easily. So I'm going to take him to win. Kyle Prepolec, let's face it, should not be in the UFC. Shouldn't have been in the first place. He was only there because Benoit Saint-Denis was turning down a ton of opponents for his UFC Canada bout after he came back after the Renato Moicano loss. He eventually got given Kyle Prepolec as like a bit of a layup to get his momentum back. He blitzed right through him, submitted him in round 1. Now I know what you're saying. Well, he also went straight through Mauricio Huffy, you know, but I don't think Prepolec's going to beat Dober. I'd have to see some kind of prospect. If this was a prospect at lightweight, I'd say, yeah, they beat Dober. But I'm not going to do it for a Prepolec. Dober's better than that. You know, he still gives scraps to a lot of decent opponents. And not that long ago either, he still has big wins. I don't know if Prepolec would beat Bobby Green. I know Dober did, you know? So maybe Dober's completely spent. Maybe he's not. That's what this fight is going to tell me. Is Dober completely done, or is he still got it a little bit? I reckon he's still got it just a little bit. I'm going to go with Drew Dober to get this one done by TKO in the second round. We move on. Danny Barlow versus Djorgen Santos. Another bit of a mismatch here. Danny Barlow's going to spark out Djorgen Santos in round 1. These matchups, I mean, I know what they're doing. Sometimes they get these guys and they want to build them up and stuff, but I feel like recently there's been a ton of these weird matchups. Danny Barlow should be facing like a good welterweight fighter that's coming off of a loss right now. Not Djorgen Santos. He should be fighting like a Nicholas Dalby or a matchup along those lines, you know, but I know he lost to Sam Patterson, but Sam Patterson's really good. He's a very, very good prospect in the welterweight division, so I'm going to go with Danny Barlow to spark out Djorgen Santos. Djorgen Santos had a very competitive fight with Ozzy Diaz. And I don't need to say more than that. I really don't need to say more than that. Djorgen Santos had a very close fight with Ozzy Diaz. Won his fight on the Contender Series against Will Curry, who we found out at the time had 0 hands on the feet. So Djorgen Santos does have some good grappling instincts and some good takedown defense, but he is so hittable on the feet, and he's never been in there with someone as fast as Danny Barlow. Although I don't think Danny Barlow's crazy good, I do think he's got some level of talent, and he is a talented prospect that could be an overall winner in the UFC. I don't see him being a world champion. I don't see him being top 10. I could see him taking a in like a few years from now, he might float in and out of the rankings, like maybe see number 14, 15, back down to number 20, 21, then float back into the rankings at 15, lose again, back down to... I think that's where his position is going to be in the UFC. He'll be a guy who wins 2, loses 1, and maintains his career for a long time. Whereas Djorgen Santos seems like the type of guy who's going to be out of here after this loss to Danny Barlow by first round KO. So I'm going to go with Danny Barlow getting this one done. First round KO. He's a massive favorite for a reason. We move on. Bruno Silva versus Hyunsung Park. Anyone else not trusting the Koreans these days? I know he's a favorite over Bruno Silva, but Bruno Silva is a tricky customer to people that aren't top level in the flyweight division. Bruno Silva's pretty good, you know. Like, he is very... I'm going to go with Bruno Silva. Hyunsung Park has a really good grappling game. He submitted Carlos Hernandez in his UFC... or his second fight in the UFC. I say his UFC debut because before that, he fought an Asian guy from Road to UFC, which... I'm going to be nice when I say this, but it's not nice. So I'm actually not going to be nice when I say this. They kind of just put them on an Asian versus Asian format on Road to UFC so that they can get to the UFC. And I know that he lost to Tatsuro Taira in his last fight. Short notice step up. It's not that bad of a loss. He got knocked down early, submitted really easily. But to be shown levels like that by Tatsuro Taira, I think that does make you bottom of the barrel flyweight level. I know he took it on short notice, but still, Taira doesn't dominate everyone. He really doesn't dominate everyone. You know, he dominates low-level flyweights. Even guys like Jesus Aguilar give him a bit of trouble here and there, or another fighter gives him a little bit of a problem. I'm going to go against Hyunsung Park. Bruno Silva's dangerous. He's had nasty KOs in the UFC. Front kick, take the back. He's got really good Brazilian jiu-jitsu, so I don't think he'll be submitted by Hyunsung Park. He will make this a scrap. Even against Manel Cap. I know he was fouling against Manel Cap, but he did get finished with a groin shot. And Cap was styling on him. But Manel Cap is a level of talent that I don't think Hyunsung Park is. So I'm going to go with Bruno Silva getting this one done. And I'm going to say that Bruno Silva gets this one done by decision. It's going to be a hard-fought decision. It's going to be a very close fight. But I'm going to say Bruno Silva split decision victory. He's got some sneaky wins on his record, you know, and he gives a lot of tough fights to a lot of really good flyweights that are ranked and decent and good. He's no easy task. If this was an easier one for Hyunsung Park coming back, I would say maybe I'd pick him here, but... I think Bruno Silva's a little bit too much, so I'm taking him as an underdog here. I like these ones. I like the underdog pick of Bruno Silva over Hyunsung Park. He's quite a sizable underdog, but I've been killing it with the sizable underdogs, and I'm not ignoring my instincts anymore. I'm going with Bruno Silva. We move on. Talk about ignoring my instincts. Charles Jourdain versus Davey Grant. I almost have been saying Davey Grant's going to win out of just a statement of like, he's never done me wrong. I keep picking him to win as an underdog and he keeps pulling it off every time. Unk still got it. But I reckon Charles Jourdain's going to beat him, man. And I've known it the whole time. I've been saying Davey Grant's going to finish him, dude. Davey Grant's going to finish him. It's not like I've been really strongly thinking Davey Grant wins. I'm going to have to go with Charles Jourdain. I was looking back at some of his fights and I'm thinking, Sean Woodson is so tricky for a guy like Charles Jourdain to beat. I thought he lost a fight very clearly, 29-28. Could have even lost every round, but it was a competitive fight. They ended up making it a split decision for some fucking reason. But other than that, he lost to Gene Silva. You know? He's lost to really good fighters in the UFC. Solid competition fighters. And not much else. Even the Shane Burgos fight arguably could go to him. That fight can arguably go Charles Jourdain's way. Always gets scrappy. And that's what I like about this for Charles Jourdain. He's not afraid of a scrap. Nathaniel Wood fight. Nathaniel Wood is very, very good. And he's a featherweight as well. Even though Wood was a bantamweight, he's now doing well at featherweight. Hopefully he'll go on to do quite well moving forward. Or at least I think he'll go on to do quite well moving forward. But Charles Jourdain, I think I've got him to win this one. I could see him mixing in some grappling here as well on some slick shit with like a back take. He's had 2 nasty guillotines in his fights, 3 of them actually. In his UFC career, he caught Victor Henry with one. I know he caught Lando Venata with one, and there's another fighter that he caught in a really nasty guillotine as well. Charles Jourdain's very good. He's good on the feet. He beats people to punches on the inside. That's a big thing for me here. Davey Grant wings a lot of shots like a bionicle, swinging with the pivot of his shoulders, just winging these really wide shots that sort of catch people around the guard and make them hide behind their guard. Jourdain is very good at finding his way on the inside of wide shots. Doo Ho Choi is someone who tucks over his hooks very well and a lot more tightly than Davey Grant does. And Jourdain was catching him on the inside of those and beating him to the punch. So I'm going to go against Davey Grant here. Hopefully I don't feel remorse for doing that. Hopefully Davey Grant doesn't pull it off again and show that Unc still got it one more time, because he's done it so many times in his career. But I think that like Rafael Assunção, I'd take Jourdain to beat him at that version that fought Davey Grant. And Assunção was really giving Davey Grant a tough fight. Even Adrian Yanez, I think Jourdain is better than Adrian Yanez. I think he's better than Adrian Yanez. And Adrian Yanez, even though Davey Grant got robbed by him, won the fight and had a really close fight with Davey Grant. Even the other fight where Grant got robbed, Daniel Marcos, I think Jourdain had beat Daniel Marcos, you know. I was just thinking about it, like, in my head, like, how does Jourdain stack up against the people that I've seen maybe get a robbery win over Davey Grant? I think he would beat them. I think he would. Victor Henry would have, like, a competitive, close 29-28 fight with Davey Grant. He would. It would be a competitive, close fight that Davey Grant might be able to pull off as an underdog. Jourdain's probably going to win this one. And it's sad, but I think Jourdain had finished like Damon Blackshear as well. I think he'd finish Damon Blackshear. I think he'd do way better than Davey Grant did. And I just think there's something that made me want to go with Davey Grant, because he's always proved me right. So I want to keep doing it. I want to reaffirm my feelings towards Davey Grant, because I'm like, oh, you know, everyone's counting him out and I've picked him again and he pulled it off. Unk still got it and he keeps doing it. But then I'm not realizing that if he was a favorite in those matchups, like I think he should have been, there's still really close fights where he's had to pull it out of the bag. And that's not a good sign. So I've had to check myself there. And I am going to go with Charles Jourdain getting this one done. And I think he'll chin Davey Grant. I think he'll catch him with like a straight shot on the inside of a wide Davey Grant hook. Maybe wobble him to the ground and then snatch up that guillotine. Or, and I also could see the guillotine being very good, because Grant's had about like 3 neck surgeries in his career. So that's not a place you want to be in if you've had that many neck surgeries, in that guillotine of Charles Jourdain. But Jourdain's big for this division. He's got the same reach as Davey Grant. He's taller than Davey Grant. I like this for him. I do. And I think he's going to feel invigorated by his little brother winning on the Contender Series and getting signed to the UFC. It's in Canada. This is the moment that Jourdain's been waiting for. I'm taking Jourdain to win this fight by TKO. He'll have a standout performance, I think. We move on. Kyle Nelson versus Matt Frevola. I hate this. I don't know. Nelson's coming off a KO loss. Matt Frevola's coming off 2 in a row. I don't like this at all. I start to think maybe Matt Frevola could do well in the grappling against Kyle Nelson. And Kyle Nelson might not have consistent enough KO power. I know he finished Bill Algeo, but Algeo ended up losing a lot around then. Now has been cut by the UFC. Fernando Padilla, I think, was another win of Nelson's. So there was a time where he was putting together some good wins. But Matt Frevola keeps getting chinned. But he's getting chinned by Fares Yam, who I think is one of the best unranked lightweights on the roster. Benoit Saint-Denis, who is very underrated and was underrated going into that Huffy fight by everyone other than Flukas Glazer. You know what I'm saying? Ended up picking him to win and he pulled it off, but he was the underdog there. He was counted out in that fight because of the 2 losses to Poirier and Renato Moicano. So I'm going to go with Matt Frevola. They both had some tough outs pretty recently. I'm trying to remember who Nelson got chinned by in his last fight. It was a really nasty finish as well, if I'm not mistaken. But I can't for the life of me remember who it was. But I know that it happened. And I'm seeing the finishing sequence in my head. But the man who's doing it is faceless for some really fucking annoying reason. But yeah, he had a decent win streak before that. I can remember the Bilalgio, the Fernando Padilla, these wins that he... Steve Garcia, who's really good. So wait a minute. But he's now at featherweight. But Nelson was. But wait a minute. No, I'm going with Matt Frevola. Nelson's going down. I think Matt Frevola's going to get some takedowns here. I think he can mix in the grappling pretty well. Got a good team behind him as well. That team seems to be doing pretty good in MMA. Other than that guy on the Contender Series recently, the Serra Longo team seems to be doing pretty well. And I think that Nelson would also lose to Ziam and easily get destroyed by Benoit Saint-Denis. Frevola's dangerous. I think he's slightly more... I think he's more powerful than Kyle Nelson. I think Nelson's got a slightly better chin, but I think Frevola's fought better fighters. You know, Frevola has a win over Jalen Turner. He lost to Armand Sarukian and went to a decision with him. You know what I mean? I think Nelson gets finished in a round by Armand. Any version of Armand, even back then in 2020. So I'm going to go with Matt Frevola getting this one done. I can justify his bad more than I can Nelson, and his good moments are better than Nelson's as well. So I'm going to go with Matt Frevola getting this one done. Nelson's a bit rigid, straight shots, very orthodox. Frevola likes to get scrappy, wing shots over the top, mix it into takedowns. I don't see any like defensive submission moves from Kyle Nelson. I don't see any like counter ability from Kyle Nelson. I don't see any wacky shit that's going to catch Frevola like Ziam hitting him with a knee as he turns around in the clinch, or Benoit catching him with a head kick as he's running away from his back being against the cage. So I think Nelson's a simple man that Frevola can figure out, you know? Like I'd pick a Zaitar to beat Nelson. So I'm going to go with Matt Frevola getting this one done. By decision, 30-27. We move on. Cody Gibson versus Aori Qileng. Don't like this either. But I'm going to go Cody Gibson. Darren Till. Our guy Darren Till back in the UFC. He shrunk a little bit for this one, but he's back in the UFC, folks. And he's going up against Aori Qileng. I'm going with Gibson. I thought he was looking really good against Damon Blackshear. And Damon Blackshear has kind of been exposed as a bit of a... You know, not as good as many people were saying that he was going to be in the division. He did have a really good fight with Mario Batista, but then Mario Batista's claim to success is that his performance against Patchy Mix was really good, and Patchy Mix has looked terrible. And then Mario Batista, he had a win over Ricky Simone and Damon Blackshear, and those just haven't aged. The Ricky Simone wins aged very well, though. He had a good performance against him, for sure, but yeah. That's at featherweight. You know? No, it's at bantamweight. Well, I'm fucking retarded. Cody Gibson's going to get this one done. Why was I thinking featherweight? Oh, yeah, because fucking some of Nelson's fucking... For whatever. I'm mixed up all over the place. But Cody Gibson's going to get this one done. I like the pressure from him here. I like the volume. I think he can do well with the volume. I've seen Aori Qileng walked down and out-pressured by Jeff Molina at flyweight, who's a tiny flyweight. Not much pop on his shots. Got walked down, got pressured in that fight. Aori Qileng doesn't have good wins. He beat Johnny Munoz Jr. and took him to a decision. Cody Gibson doesn't have any either, but I can trust if neither of them get a finish here, which I think is likely, Gibson's going to throw twice as many shots as Aori Qileng. He's going to throw twice as many shots in this fight, and that's what I can rely on. Volume, pressure. In the case that neither of them can finish each other, that's what I'm looking for here. Qileng, I think he got this Daniel Marcos, no contest, some odd moments there. A bit of a foul situation in that fight, so that's not too bad for him, but I just don't have any good win to justify Aori Qileng, and neither do I have one for Cody Gibson. What the fuck is this doing so high up on the card above Jourdain and Davey? What the fuck is the UFC bout order? Why is this above Jourdain? Move on. 29-28 decision, by the way. Manon Fiorot versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. I'm going to go with Manon Fiorot here. She had a really close fight with Valentina Shevchenko, and she can't be taken down. And Jasmine Jasudavicius has been beating a lot of girls by taking them down recently and beating them up on the ground. Fiorot's not going to get taken down here. If she does, I'll be very surprised by Jasmine Jasudavicius. But we saw when Jasudavicius fought a good women's fighter that had good takedown defense and good striking on the back foot like Natalia Silva, she got pieced the fuck up in that fight. So although she's had some momentum recently, I think is against way lower levels of competition. Manon Fiorot literally... I mean, I was like worried at the end of that fight. I picked Shevchenko to beat Fiorot because I thought Fiorot's just so low output and doesn't really do much. But at the end of that fight, I was genuinely thinking like, oh my God, this could go Fiorot's way. It was that close of a fight. She got dropped at one point, but it was just a shit non-contest. It wasn't even barely a combat sports fight that they had. But I remember thinking at the end of that decision like, oh, come on. Please tell me I'm right in this Shevchenko pick. They gave it to her. You know, I mean, it was a very close fight that they had, but Shevchenko was just a little bit busier. I don't think Jazz Davicius has got the striking moving forward to beat Manon Fiorot. I think she's going to keep walking into that check hook. I don't think she's got too much pop in her shots to get that much respect out of Manon Fiorot as well. So I think Jazz Davicius' way of winning here would be to wear on Fiorot and to like pressure her and break her as the fight goes on. She typically does well as the fight goes on. Third rounds are usually Jazz Davicius' best. But Manon Fiorot's got 3 rounds here. She's been 5 many times now. Erin Blanchfield, you know, who's a good grappler, who has good pressure and volume, is shit at fighting, but, you know, she's only top 5 in women's MMA, so she's going to be shit. I'm going against Jazz Davicius, and I'm trusting in Manon Fiorot to get this one done by decision win, 29-28 or 30-27. Maybe Jazz Davicius has a moment of success, but I doubt it. I think this is going to be a Fiorot counter-striking, low-volume, low-output fight where she outlands Jazz Davicius every single round and stuffs all of her takedowns as well. We move on. Marlon Vera versus Amian Zahabi. I'm going with Amian Zahabi. Marlon Vera is losing every single fucking fight he has until he pulls some wacky shit off recently in his career. The only time he's like clearly beaten an opponent recently to my knowledge was Davey Grant, which was still a pretty good scrap between the two of them. But he ended up getting on top and elbowing him in the face and really doing good work in those positions. But Marlon Vera recently is just standing there getting hit over and over again. There's nothing good about what he's been doing recently. There used to be a Marlon Vera that would wait for someone to spring in, and then boom, he's got him in like a standing arm triangle. Andre Ewell. Or like he shoots in, now he's on the back of this opponent. Oh my God, he's mixing in his submissions, and that makes him more of a threat on the feet. And he had a good fight with Song Yudong at one point as well that I think he got the win for, right? Even though I thought... Did he get the win for that fight, or was it like a Marlon Vera has kids? I think they robbed Vera a little bit, but Song arguably could have won as well. So yeah, it was Song Yudong that got that victory. So he did have some moments, Vera, early doors, where he went up against some power shot guys, and they ended up sort of like trying to get him out of there, and they couldn't, and then he was still there in their face. But recently, with people that are able to pick and move, they just do extremely well against Marlon Vera. And Vera, let's just call it what it is an extremely easy fighter to game plan against. Very, very simple fighter to game plan against. He doesn't do much of anything. Occasionally he'll throw a head kick. Now and then he'll throw a knee to the body, maybe a lead elbow. But he doesn't really do much. He kind of just waits for momentum to come his way, and then he'll start doing really good work. Amian Zahabi's got a really good team behind him. Firas Zahabi is an expert in game planning. You know, he really is. He's got a good tactical mind for the game. And I think Amian is an overachiever. I don't think he's built for this. Like, he's tough. And in the Aldo fight, he proved how tough he was. Don't get me wrong. But I don't necessarily think he's got this, like, really crazy talent. But he's just a really smart fighter, and he does what it takes to win. And he's got some power in his hands, enough to get some respect from Vera, but not enough to finish him, in my opinion. But he'll get a double leg on Vera early and spend a round on top. And then round 2, he'll start picking at Vera. And then round 3, he'll do what he does to win. And Vera won't get on top of him and finish him. So I'm going to go with Amian Zahabi getting this one done. Vera could be problems, but even Dominic Cruz in his old age was like piecing up Vera in moments, other than the knockdowns. And eventually Vera head kicks him in round 4 and puts him away. But Dominic Cruz was like putting hands on him, and Vera's just eating it and standing there and going, all right, eventually I'll knock him down at some point. Eventually you can't count on that. And watching Amian Zahabi get head kicked flush against Aldo when he didn't even see it coming and he was getting back up to his feet. Soccer kicked in the face pretty much legally. Flung backwards and then end up coming back into that round, getting on top and smashing Aldo with elbows to bring that fight back for himself. Plus, the first 2 rounds are very competitive as well. I'm going to go with Amian Zahabi getting this one done. He's a bit of an overachiever, but I think he'll get past Marlon Vera. I think that's where it ends. I think Sandhagen beats him. I think O'Malley would beat him. I think top contenders would beat. I think even like a Cejudo could get him in a 3-rounder, a low output fight. But this momentum's not just going to be handed to Vera here. He's going to have to force it and take it, which has just been so out of character recently. And I don't pick fighters based on what they could do or what they should do. I pick fighters based on what they fucking do. Every single time. And recently, for like the past 7 fights, there has been a fucking punching bag. So I'm going to go with Amian Zahabi getting this one done by decision. 30-27, clears the scorecards. People are telling Vera to retire. He's just tough. He needs to change his ways. He needs to get a new gym. These conversations start happening. But I'm looking at this number right here. That's 10 losses now in his career. It's a lot of people that have figured him out. And for us, Zahabi's very good at figuring people out. And if you've already given him the blueprint 10 times, he's going to perfect it. So I think Zahabi's going to have a clean Salem win. 30-27. Big win from Amian Zahabi. We move on. Kevin Holland versus Mike Mallet. Now, Holland's a weird one because I almost feel like he is doing inside betting, insider trading in the UFC, because how the fuck are you losing to D-Rod after what you've been doing in the division and the people that you've been beating? But I am going to go with Mike Mallet. He's a submission artist, and he's got good takedowns. And Neil Magny is trickier for a lot of these guys. And although Mallet ended up throwing it away in the 3rd round, he very cleverly and very well and very effectively got to dominant positions over Neil Magny. He followed a game plan. He chewed at the leg, which is what Ponzinibbio was doing to Holland in their fight as well. Chewed at the leg on the outside. Stayed behind his guard, swung power shots to get respect off Magny. Eventually, he got the takedown, and he stayed on top position against Magny, and he'll camp that position, and they're in Canada, so he ain't getting stood up. They need Mallet to win. If Mallet don't win, there's going to be too many Indians in Canada for them to ever have a combat sports champion ever again. You know what I mean? So they need Mallet to rise to the top and make a bit of a splash. So I'm going to go with Mike Mallet here. I'm going to say that Mike Mallet gets this one done. And I'm going to say that he gets it. I think this will be another loss for Holland by submission. Even though Mallet's not that big, he is not small. He's 6'1" for the division, you know. He's a big dude and he's got power, you know. He puts down Radke and has a great performance against him. And Radke's a powerhouse. Radke's a guy I would imagine goes 29-28 with Holland. Holland doing some Philly shell against the cage, hitting his guard quite a bit. There just seems to be certain levels of fighters, even on the feet. Like the JDM fight, people say Holland got robbed. He fucking didn't. He hit the guard about 100 fucking times, and they were calling it significant strikes. Holland, just when he realizes he's outmatched a little bit, just concedes a loss and tries to scrape by and get it done like that. It's just a very weird thing from him. So I'm going to say that he loses to Mallet, and then we go back to Holland beating up some other unranked guy and beating them. But the D-Rod fight was yucky to me because D-Rod is shit, in my opinion. He's tough and he's powerful. But seeing Holland get wobbled by him, now I can't rely on Holland's chin a little bit. Mallet's powerful. He sets traps. He backs up, waits for people to come in. Cracks them on the jaw. Low kicks. Frustrates them. Moves a lot in the fight. Good takedowns. Good entries. I think he can take down Holland and get half guard and stay there pretty reasonably in this fight for a long moment in time. If it weren't for that scramble that costed him against Neil Magny, where Magny ended up in mount with about a minute to go, he would have clean sailed his way through Neil Magny. I could see Holland fucking fumbling a fucking fight with Neil Magny. How many more times do I have to say fucking before you believe me here? I'm going with Mike Mallet, and I'm going to take Mike Mallet by arm triangle submission. I'm going to say that happens. Round 1... chews at the leg of Holland. Holland gets frustrated, lands some good shots, but as he gets some success, Mallet shoots in, gets him down, controls on the ground, a couple big shots towards the end of the round. Round 2, similar situation, same thing, low kicks from Mallet, cracks Holland with a good shot on the feet. Holland has some success, gets taken down around the halfway point, and I'm going to say that Mallet goes for an arm triangle at the end of round 2 and pulls it off. So I'm going to say Mike Mallet wins by submission victory. Even Gunner had some good moments, and Gunner's not as committed to the game right now as Mallet. And Mallet's been around for a long time. He was the jiu-jitsu coach at Team Alpha Male ages ago. You know, he's been around for a long time, even though he's not that old. So I'm going to go Mike Mallet to get this one done by submission win in round 2. We move on. Reinier Derrida versus Brendan Allen. I thought Allen had a belt over his shoulder there for a second. That tattoo is looking like a belt over his shoulder. Either way. I'm going Reinier Derrida. And there's a few reasons why. If not for the Whittaker performance, I could maybe see myself saying, oh, you know, Allen's actually a pretty live underdog here. This is pretty good odds for Brendan Allen. But because of the Whittaker's top level, I think Whittaker would school a guy like Brendan Allen. I know people say things like, Whittaker's washed, his chin's not there anymore. But Whittaker also fights very good competition. And he still made it very close against Reinier Derrida. You know, a couple extra shots for Whittaker in round 5. And despite him nearly being finished in round 2, and also nearly finishing Derrida, by the way, but Derrida grabbed the glove. All good. A little bit cheating. You know, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But I think Whittaker's really, really good. And Derrida was able to impose what he does on him. Do I think that Derrida's going to be able to push Brendan Allen up against a cage? Not as easily as he did Whittaker. I think Brendan Allen's going to be a little bit more difficult to overpower. And I think Allen might try his luck shooting on Derrida, but I don't like that for him. I think Derrida's more likely to submit Brendan Allen than Allen is to submit him. This is going to be a goofy looking fight for the first 2 rounds, by the way. Crazy moments. Both guys hurt. Both guys wobbled. Both guys getting takedowns. Brendan Allen chucking himself off the top of the back of... You know it's coming. If I could bet on one thing, I'd bet on Brendan Allen jumping for a submission over position against Reinier Derrida and falling on bottom position like a fucking tard. You have to have some level of slickness to you, I think, to beat Reinier Derrida. And he's only lost 2 times in his whole career. He's beat good competition. Made easy work of Bo Nickel. The Gerald Meerschaert fight tainted my opinion of him forever. But if that's the case, I've got a lot of fights of Brendan Allen's that I can use to taint my image of him forever. So that's only once that it's happened to Reinier Derrida. Other than that, he lost to Malakin, who's a sauced-up heavyweight freak. Absolute sauced-up heavy. If you've seen Malakin, he's gone red with the amount of sauce that he's on. His blood has nowhere left to go. It's just at the fucking surface of his skin. See, like, he's actually like a monster. Even though he's not that good, he's just massive. And Reinier Derrida has a physicality advantage in this division. He's got a frame advantage. I think his striking is very goofy. But Brendan Allen consistently makes it close with shitty fighters that I think Reinier Derrida could finish. I think Reinier Derrida could hurt Marvin to the body and sub him. That's what I want to talk about here as well. Thank God I remembered that. Brendan Allen, yeah, he doesn't move. Whittaker moves sporadically on the outside between his little like lungy shots. And even then, Derrida's timing that knee to the body so many times on him, enough to hurt him in round 2, take him down and have a really good round for himself. Even against Bo Nickel's scarpering a lot on the outside. You know, Derrida reverses position on him, gets on top of Bo Nickel, batters him up against the cage. Those knees to the body again are always going to be there in fights for Reinier Derrida. I could even see him doing well with those knees to the body against Dricus du Plessis because of the way that he fights as well and how he's a bit hunched over in his stance. Even against Chimaev, I like Derrida against a lot of guys in this division. I think maybe Hernandez could have exhausted him, but even Hernandez has been finished to the body before by even Kevin Holland. So there's some weakness there as well. Brendan Allen is so stationary when he fights. He just walks around, following his opponent around right in front of them. And he doesn't have the craziest like range control, so he's not going to sting someone with something so far away. And he's going to have to get in there, close, throwing multiple shots to deal damage, throwing 3-4 punch combinations to deal damage. And in those moments, Derrida will knee him straight in the gut over and over again. And Brendan Allen has not had a full training camp. It's a good training camp. It's not like 1 week's notice or anything, but it's not a full training camp like Reinier Derrida's had. He's got momentum. He's on a win streak. I don't think Reinier Derrida makes it that close against Vettori as Brendan Allen did. I needed Brendan Allen to beat Vettori, and all Vettori has is a 1-2. That's all you've got to figure out against Vettori, and you can have a really easy time against him. Yet still Brendan Allen's getting tagged by it over and over again, pointing at Vettori a lot and stinging him with shots around the guard and stuff like that. But I can see Reinier Derrida's knee coming in handy here. I can see him hurting Brendan Allen with a knee to the body in round 2 or 3, finishing him off on the ground with a rear naked or a submission, or maybe Brendan Allen shoots in while hurt to the body and Derrida catches a dash choke. He's got a nasty dash choke, a nasty Bravo choke as well. So I'm going to go with Reinier Derrida getting this one done. I think he'll hurt Brendan Allen with a knee to the body, and then he's going to score a submission win or a TKO. I think submission win for Reinier Derrida round 2 or 3 is the right call here. But one more time before I go. UFC Vancouver. This event, this weekend, as the regular fight companions I do on the Saturdays, they're now going to be different. For this one event, maybe we'll do it more in the future if it goes well. Who knows? It could be a shit show. Me, Lucas Tracy, Bedtime MMA, live trio commentary team for UFC Fight Night Vancouver. This card on the channel, on this channel. It's going to be a good time. You got to be there for it. We might be calling in, we are going to be calling in MMA experts. I think MMA Che might come in as a bit of a Dean Thomas character as well. MMA experts as a bit of a Gianni the Greek. Who knows? But it's going to be a good time. So be there for the Fight Companion this weekend. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.